Good afternoon. This is the meeting for the Committee of Progress and Development. We will start now. We do not have a quorum, so once a couple members get here, we'll do roll call and establish that, but we'll move forward and start a hearing of our first bill today. And I think that is mine. Is that correct, or is it Senator Washington?
You do have a quorum, by the way.
Okay. Well, we do have a quorum. I'm sorry. We're waiting on another member to get here, hopefully, though. So we'll just call the roll. Secretary?
Senators Williams,
Present.
Washington, Moon, Mosley, Nicola.
Here.
Thank you, Senator. We're going to start with Senate Bill 20, that is sponsored by Senator Williams, and can begin at any time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Brian Williams, District 14, St. Louis County. Claire, I want to thank the members of the committee for an opportunity to hear this bill. So basically, in a nutshell, this bill was filed last year. We filed it towards the end of the session. So it didn't allow us much time to be able to get the bill through the process. So we wanted to start a little earlier this year and hope to get it across the finish line at some point. So basically, the purpose of this bill is twofold. It'll provide for the streamlined administration of tax revenues collected for the purposes of establishing an early childhood education fund. It also would ensure that revenues raised for this purpose are not used for another purpose that was not approved by the voters. The statute does not create any new taxes. Instead, voters in counties utilizing the statute would need to authorize a tax under a separate existing statute. Senate Bill 20 also amends Section RS MO 67.547.5 so that any tax revenues generated from a sales tax collected for the purpose of early childhood education services will not need to be distributed to the individual municipalities in St. Louis County-based population. The change only impacts St. Louis County. One thing that I'm passionate about, and we all understand that the early stages in life of a child are critical to their development. I recognize this every single day as a father to my son, and the growth that I've witnessed in him in the short time that he's been here has been tangible and a great example of how the formative years of his life has really improved due to early childhood education and his own personal development. If there's no direct questions, I'd like for the committee to hear from a few of our witnesses we have here to testify on behalf of this bill, and they can help us understand why it's important to support this bill and why we're hoping to move forward through the process. Thank you very much.
I do have a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
So your bill says that the funds will be deposited in the Early Childhood Education Fund. Does that already exist in St. Louis County? Is this something that has to?
It already exists in St. Louis County.
And where do the
so-
funds that, what are the funds that it has now? Where did they come from?
Well, it'll go to the Children's Services Fund
No,
in
not.
St. Louis County.
There already is a fund?
It's a fund that exists.
So the money that's in there now, where did that money come from?
Well, they don't really draw any money. That's what we're hoping to be able to do.
Okay, so I'm saying usually to have a fund, you went to the bank, you did some paperwork, and you had to have some money to open it up.
Oh, St.
The
Louis
money
County.
that's there, where did it come from?
St. Louis County.
Okay, from your property taxes or?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any witnesses in favor? And please make sure you fill out a witness form. And state your name and turn on the mic.
Good afternoon, Senators. Thanks for having me here today. My name is Jacqueline Graves. I'm an attorney with Lewis Rice, and I am here to speak on the language of the bill. So as Senator Williams explained, the purpose of the bill is really not to create any new taxes, but rather to provide a streamlined method of if a tax is imposed in order to fund early childhood education, that there will be a place for those funds to go and a board for the administration of those funds. Just briefly, with respect to your question on St. Louis County, right now, St. Louis County has a Community Children's Services Fund. That's a board that was already created under the existing state statutes, but that fund is for mental health purposes only, not for early childhood education. This bill would allow counties to to create a fund specifically for early childhood education. I don't want you to get confused that there would be two separate funds, but they would be administered by the same board. So the statute, the proposed SB5 would make an amendment to the existing Missouri Revised Statute, Section 67.547.5. That is the general purpose sales tax statute. And there is a section in there that says that with respect to St. Louis County, any taxes that are imposed under the general sales tax have to be distributed out to all of the municipalities in St. Louis County based on population. The amendment to this statute would allow for, if there were funds raised for the Early Childhood Education Fund, that they would not have to be distributed out to the municipalities. They would be administered by the board itself, and the board would be able to see fit among all of the entities in St. Louis County or programs that they put into place who would be best suited to receive those funds and which children would be most in need. So that's the change with respect to 67.547. But the general sales tax fund is only one type of tax that might be utilized for creation of an early childhood education fund. The bill allows any sort of tax that would be available to a county to impose to be able to utilize this process. So the next part of the statute would create a new section 67.5420, and that section would allow those counties who have imposed a tax to create to create the Early Childhood Education Fund, and that fund would be administered by the same board that administers the Community Children's Services Fund. That Community Children's Services Fund board is set forth in Chapter 210.861. And so it would allow the more efficient use of the taxes being raised, because rather than having to create a new board or a new entity to impose those or to determine how to use those funds and what programs to fund, it would be able to use an existing board that's well established with a functioning infrastructure. The bill also directs how the board may spend the funds that are collected for the Early Childhood Education Fund. Namely, they're to be used to provide and administer programs improving the quality, affordability, and access to early childhood development programs for children aged 5 years and younger, prioritizing children in financial need. Under SB5, the board can contract with third parties to provide these programs and services, place conditions on them, and establish eligibility standards for the use of these funds. It would be able to audit the expenditure of these funds. And then the statute also says different things like the members of the board can't have a financial interest in the programming and the entities that are putting those programs on. It also allows the board, to obtain funding from other revenue sources, such as they can accept gifts to benefit the program, or buy and sell property for the benefit of the program, so long as it's in the best interest of the programs being served. And finally, it provides that with respect to the board, under section 210.861, there are 4 subsections that are specific to the Community Children's Services Fund that we call out as not being addressed by this bill. So they're not applicable to the Early Childhood Education Fund. Those are the high points that I wanted to point out to you all this afternoon regarding the bill, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Senator? I do have a few questions. Thank you for being here. One, you continue to refer to an SB5.
I'm sorry, SB20.
Okay.
My
I just wanted
apologies.
to make sure. The second thing is, are there policies in place right now? So if this is approved, are there policies that delineate how this money will be spent for early childhood, or is that something that has to come if this bill is passed?
So the way the bill is structured is the bill says that it provides what the programs, it provides a general infrastructure for what the funds are going to be used for. So
Right, but how do we determine whose child care? I mean, is this going to the child care
That's-
providers or the people?
no, it's to fund, it would allow the board to fund programs that are established for this purpose.
And there are no, and so what I'm asking is, does this board already have policies that will identify or prioritize who's first, second, third, or whatever in getting these funds?
No, each board would be able to make that determination on their own based on the needs of their own community.
Okay, and then is this go for voter approval, or is this just, does this go before the voters? Because I didn't see that in here.
Yeah, so
Yeah, it'll go before voters, so it'll have to be approved by voters in St. Louis County.
Okay.
It'll go on the ballot.
yes.
Okay, and does it exist anywhere now in Missouri?
No, it does not. This is a new, it's a
And
brand
I only
new
ask because we
means.
tried this in Kansas City, and the reason it failed was because the priority wasn't to those that most needed.
And I will say, it's been drafted in a way that hopefully we can make sure that it goes, because it does use the language. The specific language says that the programs have to be to improve the quality, affordability, and access to the programs for children 5 and younger, prioritizing children in financial need.
Okay, thank you. I don't think we have any other questions. Thank you. Is there anyone
you.
in opposition?
If we have any, we got any more people?
Before you start, we want to interrupt, Mr. Chair, if we could go into exec really quick.
All right, thanks for that brief break for a second. We're going to go into executive committee. So I move that we go into executive session. Do I have a second? Second. Any opposed? Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. We're in executive session. I want to move to bring Senate Bill 38 before the committee. Do I have a second? Received a second. Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. All right, the bill is before the committee. Any discussion? Anybody have any questions on Senate Bill 38 before we exec out? Senator, you have any questions for Senate Bill 38? Okay. Okay. All right, do roll. No, we do a motion to do pass? Okay. I move that we do pass Senate Bill 38. Do I have a second? Second. All right, received a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Secretary, call the roll, please.
Senators Williams,
Aye.
Washington. Moon. Mosley. Nicola.
Okay, looks like we have voted out Senate Bill 38, and that's it. Okay, so do we have another bill we're going to accept? 4-0.
Got that word.
Vote of 4-0, we do pass Senate Bill 38.
Got it.
Yeah. So what's the other one we're gonna go into?
This one has the substitute of it.
So we have a Senate committee substitute for that?
Yes.
Okay,
And of course, you're voting it consent.
okay. All right, I also have, for the committee substitute, I move that we adopt the Senate committee substitute for Senate Bill 110. Do I have a second? Okay. All right, I move that, we brought before the committee is that Senate Bill 110. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. All right, with any further discussion, I think we'll also bring before the committee, we have a Senate committee substitute for Senate Bill 110. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, so we'll have discussion on the adoption of the substitute. Anybody have any questions on the Senate committee substitute for Senate Bill 110?
It's just changing the word from today.
Okay, so all we're doing on it, Senator Mays bill is just gonna move it from, instead of it being a week, it'll become a day. Yeah. So that was the only change. Correct. Any discussion, any questions? Okay. All right, seeing none, I do move that we do pass Senate committee substitute. All those in favor of adopting Senate committee substitute for Senate Bill 110, say aye. Any noes? Ayes prevail. So now I do move that we pass Senate committee substitute for Senate Bill 110. Do I have a second? Any discussion? All right. Do a roll call. Secretary call roll. Aye.
Washington. Moon. Mosley. Nicola.
All right, everybody voted 4-0. We have voted do pass on Senate committee substitute for Senate Bill 110. And we have one more.
We have 111 and 6.
Okay. And this is going to be consent as well? Okay.
Did you want consent on
111.
not on 110? You want more consent on 110, we need to vote, that's a separate motion. We need to vote on.
And then we'll have to do another motion on 110 for consent. Okay, so how about we go through these and just go back to that?
Let's just do it now, since we're having bills still before the committee. Just say a request has been made to vote this bill after consent. And
Okay.
then we vote on Senate committee substitute for Senate Bill 110.
All right, so for Senate Bill 110, they want to also have that bill voted out consent. So I do now move that we vote out Senate committee substitute for Senate Bill 110 consent. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Secretary, call a roll for Senate committee substitute for Senate Bill 110 to be voted out consent.
Williams.
Aye.
Washington. Moon. Mosley. Nicola.
Okay, 4-0. We have approved and voted that bill, Senate Bill Committee substitute for Senate Bill 110 consent. Okay, so I also like to make a motion to bring Senate Bill 111. Can I get a second? Before the committee, can I get a second? Second. All those in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. All right, so I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, this bill is before the committee. Senate Bill 111, that is a bill by Senator May, as well designating September as Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month. We heard that bill a week ago, so I'd like to move that we do pass Senate Bill 111. We have to vote it out first.
Pass first, and then we'll do a subsequent motion.
Yeah. So I move that we do pass Senate Bill 111. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Seeing no, any discussion? Seeing none, Secretary call the roll.
Senators Williams.
Aye.
Washington. Moon. Mosley. Nicola.
Aye.
Okay, by your vote of 4-0, we have voted do pass on Senate Bill 111, and we also like for that to be considered for consent. I move that we vote that bill out on consent. Do I have a second? Do we have any further discussion, any questions on that bill being voted consent, Senate Bill 111? Okay, seeing no conversation, Christine, call the roll.
Senators Williams,
Aye.
Washington, Moon, Mosley, Nicola,
Okay, by your vote of 4-0, we have now voted Senate Bill 111 consent. All right, and this is our last one. We have Senate Bill 156, which was introduced by Senator McCreery. That was the bill we heard last week relating to Chris Sifford Day in Missouri. I'd like to make a motion in a second for us to bring that bill before the committee to be voted out. Can I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye. Those say no. Ayes have it. Bill's before the committee. No discussion? Yeah, do pass motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Secretary, call the roll, please.
Senators Williams,
Aye.
Washington, Moon, Mosley, Nicola,
Aye.
Okay, look like we have that voted out by your vote of 4-0. We have now voted out Senate Bill 156. And we also, Senator, one more thing, we're going to do consent on that, so we just need one more roll call vote for that. So I do move that we vote out Senate Bill 156 consent. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Seeing none, Christine, call the roll.
Senators Williams,
Aye.
Washington, Moon, Mosley, Nicola,
Aye.
All right, by your vote of 4-0, we have voted out Senate Bill 156 consent. Thank you all so much for your time with that. I would like to also make a motion to exit executive session. All right, do I have a motion and a second? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Ayes have it. We are now out of executive committee. We can go back to hearing Senate Bill 20. So whoever our witness is, we're prepared for you to give your testimony. And how many people do we have here in favor of the, okay. So let's just limit it to a 2-minute testimony so we can get through it pretty quickly. This committee's being held during lunchtime, so you guys can get here a little bit. And then how many people in opposition? Just informational purposes. Thanks.
Hi, okay, we're back on Senate Bill 20. If you could go ahead and state your name, make sure you fill out a witness form. And you are, there's no one in opposition, correct? All right, go ahead, ma'am.
My name is Cassandra Kaufman, and I'm the Executive Director of the St. Louis Mental Health Board. I'd like to thank the members of the committee for the opportunity to share the perspective of an existing Community Children's Services Fund in relation to the proposed early childhood sales tax. Our organization is an independent taxing district charged with the collection and distribution of property tax revenue generated by both the Community Mental Health Fund and the Community Children's Services Fund for the benefit of residents of the city of St. Louis. Now in our 31st year, we've served the mental health prevention needs of children from birth to age 5 and their families since 2006, following the passage of the Community Children's Service Fund mill tax approved by voters in 2004. Mental health board funding that served children from birth through age 5 from 2006 until 2020 focused primarily on supporting home visitation programs, increasing the quality of child care services, early identification of mental health conditions in children as young as age 3, and providing mental health early intervention services for children ages 3 to 5. As you may be aware, the existing Community Children's Services Fund statute, sections 210.860 through 210.861, is primarily focused on crisis and clinical mental health services. You may be asking, given the current statute's language, why is an additional early childhood education tax even necessary? In 2020, early childhood advocates were looking for ways to increase the amount of public funding available to support early childhood. They approached the Mental Health Board to ask that should an increase to the mill tax pass, would the board agree to dedicate the additional revenue to support early childhood programs and services. The board agreed. When the ballot initiative known as Prop R was passed in 2020 to increase our Children's Services Fund to its statutory maximum of 25 cents per every $100 of assessed valuation, essentially an additional 6-cent increase for the purpose of supporting early childhood education for children birthed to age 5, the ballot initiative was overwhelmingly supported by city child care providers. The public information campaign conducted was driven by a coalition of early childhood advocates, funders, and institutional partners.
I'm sorry. You seem to have quite a lot there.
Yeah, I can
Can you send
hop to
that to us?
I can do that.
Okay. Thank you. And go ahead and hop to your conclusion.
Yeah. So, okay. Let me just see. Okay. Let's see. So primarily, one of the issues with the current statute is that it does not fund for-profit child care providers, and the majority of child care providers in the city of St. Louis are small for-profit entities. Passage of an early childhood sales tax would enable existing for-profit child care providers to receive funding to increase the number of seats available for children in the city of St. Louis. It would also provide additional funding for professional development, so in essence it would increase the quality, accessibility, and affordability of early childhood care. There's currently a 7,600 deficit for the number of children who do not have available slots in early childhood.
Thank you. Next witness in favor.
Oh, yeah, that is nice and uneven there, isn't it?
Okay, please make sure you fill out a witness form.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Annie Foncannon, and I am the Executive Director of the Franklin County Children and Family Community Resource Board, and we oversee the Children's Services Fund for Franklin County, Missouri. We thought it'd be good to have someone speaking from the more rural side, and also to let you know a little more about the Children's Services Funds and why this is pretty brilliant to have this to where it, if a county would like to pass this tax, for it to go under the Children's Services Funds. Currently, the counties that have Children's Services Funds are Jefferson, St. Louis City, St. Louis County, St. Charles, Lincoln, Franklin, Lafayette, Jackson, and Clay. One other one did pass, but they haven't set their board up as of yet. The greatest part about funds like the Children's Services Fund and the Mental Health Mill Tax, and then hopefully the Early Education Fund, is that we can really hone in on the needs of that specific community rather than trying to do a one-size-fits-all across the state. So we're able to look at our community, and we do a needs assessment every 4 years and say, okay, what's going on and what can we do best, and how can we invest in our community and our children in order to elevate our whole community. We have a great return on investment. Boone County's Children's Services Fund actually just did a wonderful research project where they looked at the actual ROI, the return on investment on every dollar spent. And I do not have those numbers right in front of me. I don't know if they've released them to the public, but the preliminaries that we received to look at were absolutely amazing. I can also say that in our community, every aspect of our community relies on our Children's Services Fund. Our police force, and the beauty of it is that we can tailor it for our county and our community. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Good
Good afternoon. I'm Amy Hammerman. I'm a volunteer with National Council of Jewish Women. Our mission is to improve the well-being of women, children, and families, and we represent 5,000 members and supporters across the state of Missouri. We're here in support of this bill based on our long history in supporting families and making sure that their children get the education that they need, and also recognizing that there is a child care crisis in our state, and we believe this bill will help ameliorate that.
I need to be the one that trips. Good afternoon. I'm Robin Shelp, Director of Policy and Advocacy for Kids One Missouri. Just want to go on record supporting Senate Bill 20. We do a lot of work with communities throughout the state, trying to expand access to quality, affordable childcare and early education. It makes a lot of sense to create this fund within an existing structure that's working really well, the Community Children's Services Fund. So with that, just want to go on record and support. And thank you for sponsoring this.
Thank you. Senator Moon, we're on Senate Bill 20. Do you have any questions for this witness? So witness in favor. Thank you. Anyone else in favor? Senator, do you have any closing remarks?
No, I appreciate the committee for an opportunity to present this bill. I'm looking forward to.
I'm sorry, I forgot.
Oh, yeah, we got information.
Informational purposes only.
Yeah, we got
He was
it.
looking
Got it
all
back in
anxious
here.
and stuff, so.
Thank you, Senator. I came all the way from the third floor to testify. So
long way.
I came a long way. I have about 15 minutes to present to you. I represent St. Louis County Children's Services Fund. We really appreciate the Senator's work on this, but our board hasn't taken a formal position. So we collect currently a 1/4 sales tax in St. Louis County. It goes specifically to treatment for mental health for youth. It's 5 and over, so we have a real specific line of services and population we serve. We see this as a great complement to that, but currently in place, so yeah, that's where the county of St. Louis County, their funds exist. And happy to answer everyone's questions. Thank you. Yep.
Yeah, with that, Senator, Madam Chair, I appreciate the opportunity to present this bill, and thank you for the committee for hearing it. Thank you for all of our witnesses that came from out of town to come and advocate for this. I appreciate it a lot. Okay, before you we have our last bill for today that'll be heard is by Senator Washington, Senate Bill 205. With that, Senator, feel free to take the stage and tell us what your bill is about.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman and Committee, for the opportunity to present Senate Bill 205. This bill is going to build upon our state's longstanding commitment to supporting our survivors of domestic violence. We do currently have strong nonprofit organizations and crisis centers that are doing great work, but the housing for these victims of domestic violence remains a major barrier for those escaping abuse. This creates incentives for property owners to be part of the solution by either converting abandoned properties into operational shelters and by making residential rentals available to survivors. It's a practical, cost-effective approach to expanding housing options for those in need. Some of the main things it would do is it would expand our existing tax credits. We already have tax credits for donations to domestic violence shelters. And this would enhance that by incentivizing property owners to create and provide more direct housing solutions for those who are surviving or escaping domestic violence. It encourages shelter expansion by offering a $1,000 credit for converting abandoned property into a functioning domestic shelter. And where I live in Kansas City, as well as St. Louis and throughout the state, we have lots of vacant homes that can be turned into small domestic violence shelters to help ease the burden for that. I'm sorry, I'm in these old glasses. It also grants a $500 tax credit for those who rent to domestic violence survivors. Obviously, they would have to prove that they have come from a shelter, and it'll help them transition into stable and independent housing. As we know that the housing is one of the biggest barriers. We even in Kansas City have created an 800 number for those to call so that they can get housing, because our shelters for domestic violence victims has they fill up pretty fast. And so we have a new 800 number for those that are trying to escape. And it's cost effective because it's cheaper than emergency shelters, and it'll help these women and men get back and families get back to where they need to be by having a stable address and having a safe place to be as they escape domestic violence.
Thank you, Senator Washington. With that, do we have any questions from any members of the committee? Senator Moon? Okay, with that, we'll call up the first witness in support.
Hello, I am Matthew Huffman with the Missouri Coalition Against Domestic and Sexual Violence. We are a statewide membership organization of domestic violence shelters, rape crisis centers, and allied professions like legal services and legal aid corporations. I want to thank you, Chairman, for hearing this bill today, and I want to thank Senator Washington for supporting this bill again this year. I want to say that we certainly know that homelessness is a huge issue across the state of Missouri, and we see that in Jackson County, where the senator is from, but we also know that it's a problem regardless of your zip code. We also know that there's a very strong link between domestic violence and experiencing homelessness. Many of the individuals who are homeless experience homelessness because of the abuse that they fled. That's something that we hear frequently with advocates across the entire state when we're meeting with them. Much like the senator said, many individuals who are experiencing domestic violence want to be able to get into their own home. They want safe, stable housing, but we have a housing shortage. And I believe that this bill seeks to really increase the accessibility of safe and affordable housing, really looking at that cross-section of domestic violence and homelessness. And so I think that these tax incentives can be a very practical and very realistic way of helping to address that.
Any questions for the witness? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we have any additional witnesses in support of Senate Bill 205?
Hi, my name is Starla Wolf-Brennan. I'm the Executive Director of Amethyst Place.
Put on the record that I'm on the advisory board of Amethyst Place, just so we know.
I am here to testify in favor of SB 205. Domestic violence, of course, continues to be on the rise. In 2023, over 23,000 adults and over 2,300 children received non-residential domestic violence services. But over 20,000 and 12,000 adults and 12,000 children were not served due to lack of capacity. So that number continues to rise. As we all know, safe and affordable housing is severely lacking in our state, but it disproportionately impacts survivors of domestic violence. And at Amethyst Place, I see this impact every day. We are a long-term supportive housing program in Kansas City's urban core, and we've been doing this, excuse me, for over 24 years. We help families overcome houselessness, reunify children separated in foster care and in generational cycles so that these families can have a successful future, and housing is the backbone of that transformation. For 80% of the families we serve, the trauma histories enduring domestic violence is part of their history. They have very limited resources, very limited housing options, and as a result, after these families bravely leave those abusive relationships, 100% of them are unhoused prior to entering our program. Making matters worse, our waitlist averages 50 families, and it takes over a year for them to get into our housing. In Kansas City, we lack over 64,000 units of affordable housing. And it's a significant issue, and it disproportionately impacts families with young children. We desperately need more safe housing options. These tax credits would really help incentivize the creation of more housing options for survivors of domestic violence. We need more shelters for emergency housing. We also need more landlords who are willing to rent to survivors of domestic violence, who may have rental histories and backgrounds that make them a less ideal tenant than someone who does not have these trauma histories. A tax credit specifically housing this population may inspire some landlords to make more allowances for those circumstances. More safe housing resources are vital for survivors to escape abusive relationships, particularly for those with children who cannot risk being unhoused. By providing the tools to generate more housing for this population, we are paving the way for all the healing that must follow to help survivors of domestic violence achieve healthy, brighter futures. I ask that you please support SB205 so that we are leveraging all the tools necessary to make this possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Moon, any questions? Wow.
I do want to add that Amethyst Spaces. Amethyst Spaces is doing its part. They recently just built 29 townhomes for families, and they have taken over an entire block of apartments so that they can house families and women that are escaping domestic violence.
Thank you for that, Senator. Any additional witnesses in support?
Good afternoon. I'm still Amy Hammerman with National Council of Jewish Women, and we have a long history of supporting survivors of intimate partner violence. We were the founding organization of legal advocates for abused women. We have a historical relationship with Lydia's House in the St. Louis area, and we currently serve survivors through our micro-lending program called Healing Hearts Bank, where we give loans of up to $500 interest-free. We have a lot of really successful folks to come through that program, but there's only so much we can do to help survivors get on their feet if there is a lack of safe and affordable housing, and we believe that SB205 will help increase that supply, so we support it.
Thanks, Amy. Appreciate it. Any questions for Amy? Thank you. Any other additional witnesses in support? Any witnesses in opposition? Anyone here for informational purposes? Okay, that's Senator Washington. Would you like any closing remarks?
Thank you. Just this bill does align with our state's commitment to support survivors while leveraging private resources to meet a public need. By encouraging our property owners to convert abandoned properties into shelters and offering a tax credit for those routing to survivors, this will provide a great path to stability and recovery, and I urge that we pass this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With that, I would like to make a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
All right. With that, we are adjourned. Thank you so much, and that will conclude our